So, the second one to appear.
Did you read the novel Patria?
Yes, beautiful novel, excellent novel.
Yes.
It's a wonderful novel. Also,
Yes, I was remembering Patria when we talk when they know each other and they are maybe before they were friends and
yes, and of course they were friends. Patria is a novel by Aramburu.
Aramburu, excellent novel. Excellent.
About ¿cómo se llama? De guerrillas de...
Aira.
No,
Aira
los
no.
vascos, ¿cómo es que se llama? No me acuerdo el nombre del grupo.
Un tapón en el cerebro.
La ETA.
La ETA.
Sí, y también in that novel, the two groups are present, the ones who are in favor of the ETA and the ones who are against, and they were friends when they were young.
Yeah, they were very close friends.
Very close friends. And then, all the killings and the things that happen, no, it's also terrible.
Yes, the children of one family kill the father of the other.
Yes. No, it's... yes. Well, okay, the second one was... after Don Benito, no one would come out, no? And so they start shouting, que salga el toro, que salga el toro.
And Don Federico González, we were about to read.
It was Don Federico González who owned the mill, no? He was barefooted as when he had been taken from his home, and he walked ahead of Pablo, holding his hands above his head. And Pablo walked behind him with the barrels of his shotgun pressing against the back of Don Federico González, until Don Federico entered the double line. But when Pablo left him and returned to the door of the Ayuntamiento, Don Federico could not walk forward and stood there, his eyes turned up to heaven and his hands reaching up as though they would grasp the sky. He has no legs to walk. What's the matter, Don Federico? Can't you walk? Someone shouted to him. Get on, Pablo shouted to him from the steps. Walk. Don Federico stood there and could not move. One of the drunkards poked him in the backside with a flail handle, and Don Federico gave a quick jump as a bulky horse might, but still stood in the same place, his hands up and his eyes up towards the sky. Then the peasant who stood beside me said, "This is shameful. I have nothing against him, but such a spectacle must terminate." So he walked down the line and pushed through to where Don Federico was standing and said, "With your permission," and hit him a great blow alongside of the head with a club. Then Don Federico dropped his hands and put them over to the top of his head where the bald place was, and with his head bent and covered by his hands, the thin long hairs that covered the bald place escaping through his fingers, he ran fast through the double line with his flails falling on his back and shoulders, until he fell, and those at the end of the line picked him up and swung him over the cliff. Never did he open his mouth from the moment he came out, pushed by the shotgun of Pablo. His only difficulty was to move forward. It was as though he had no command of his legs. So, also horrible, no? And the peasant who says, "This is shameful," and goes and tells him, "With your permission," he doesn't want to suffer this terrible situation for the man, no? He wanted him to finish quickly. And there you also find the importance of this type of writing, because we feel and we imagine the situation, but there is no comment. We have to feel it.
No comment.
No comment. Well, then she looks inside of the Ayuntamiento, and she can see that all the men are there with the priest, and Pablo says, "Who goes now?" And one of them says, Don Ricardo Montalvo, "Let us all go together." "¿Qué va?" said Pablo, "one at a time as you are ready." No, he doesn't want them to go all together. Then I go now, Don Ricardo said, page 116. I'll never be any more ready. The priest blessed him as he spoke and blessed him again as he stood up, with interrupting his praying, and held up a crucifix for Don Ricardo to kiss, and Don Ricardo kissed it and then turned and said to Pablo, "Nor ever again as ready, you cabron of the bad milk. Let us go." No. Don Ricardo was a short man with gray hair and a thick neck, and he had a shirt on with no collar. He was bow-legged from much horseback riding. "Goodbye," he said to all those who were kneeling. "Don't be sad. To die is nothing. The only bad thing is to die at the hands of this canalla. Don't touch me."
They are brave people, no?
Yes. No,
They are brave.
This one is...
They are not cowards.
No. He walked out of the front of the Ayuntamiento with his gray hair and his small gray eyes and his thick neck, looking very short and angry. He looked at the double lines of peasants and he spat on the ground. He could spit actual saliva, which in such a circumstance, as you should know, English, is very rare. And he said, "Arriba España, down with the miscalled republic and die obscenity in the milk of your fathers." No, me cago en la leche de sus padres. ¿Sí? So they cuffed him to death very quickly. So le pegan con los palos, ¿no?
Claro.
Because of the insult, beating him as soon as he reached the first of the men, beating him as he tried to walk his head up, beating him until he fell, and chopping at him with ripping hooks and the sickles. And many men bore him to the edge of the cliff to throw him over, and there was blood now on their hands and on their clothing. And now began to be the feeling that these who came out who were truly enemies and should be killed. So now that there is blood on their hands, this is really a butchery. The butchery starts, no? Until Don Ricardo came out with that fierceness and calling those insults, many in the line would have given much, I am sure, never to have been in the line. And if anyone had shouted from the line, "Come, let us pardon the rest of them, now they have had their lesson," I am sure most would have agreed. But Don Ricardo, with all his bravery, did a great disservice to the others, for he aroused the men in the line, and where before they were performing a duty, and with no great taste for it, now they were angry. And the difference was apparent. "Let the priest out and the thing will go faster," someone shouted. "Let out the priest." "We've had 3 thieves, let us have the priest." 2 thieves. It was 2 thieves with our Lord. Whose Lord? In the manner of speaking of it is said our Lord. "He isn't my Lord, not in joke," said the other, "and thee hadst best watch thy mouth if thou dost not want to walk between the lines." "I am as good a libertarian Republican as thou," the short peasant said. "I struck Don Ricardo across the mouth. I struck Don Federico across the back. I missed Don Benito. But I say our Lord is the formal way of speaking of the man in question, and that was 2 thieves. I obscenity in the milk of thy republicanism. You speak of Don this and Don that. Here are they so called." So they pay attention to the way they call them, no? Don Ricardo, Don Benito. "Not by me, the cabrones, and thy Lord, hi, here comes a new one." It was then that we saw a disgraceful sight, for the man who walked out of the doorway of the Ayuntamiento was Don Faustino Rivero, the oldest son of his father, Don Celestino Rivero, a landowner. He was tall and his hair was yellow, and it was freshly combed back from his forehead, for he always carried a comb in his pocket, and he had combed his hair now before coming out. He was a great annoyer of girls, and he was a coward, and he had always wished to be an amateur bullfighter. He went much with gypsies and with bullfighters and with bull racers, and delighted to wear the Andalusian costume, but he had no courage and was considered a joke. One time he was announced to appear in an amateur benefit fight for the old people's home in Avila and to kill a bull from on horseback in the Andalusian style, which he had spent much time practicing. And when he had seen the